Alright guys, so part 2, I noticed I was taking way too long to answer the questions in part 1, so I'm just going to split this up into 2 separate videos. Nichelle Pernille, I'd love to hear more about your feelings on being an empty nester. I'm not anywhere near being there yet. My kids are 10, 6, and 2, but I will one day, and I'm already dreading it. How do you cope? How do your children feel about you missing them? Do they understand? Well, my son still lives at home, but I would have to say he sleeps here. He doesn't do a lot of living here. So you know, I'm not as active in their daily life. I tell everybody I went from being the organizer of their lives to being a spectator in their lives. And that's how it should be, but it doesn't make it any easier. The first year Maureen was married was tough. I just didn't know what to do with myself. I was so used to being involved in, like, I mean, we weren't homeschooling for a long time, but I was still involved in their daily lives and the planning and the doing. And I mean, Maureen's wedding took like 17 months to plan, so I was very active. And then all of a sudden, that was it. It was done. And I always say, you don't plan for this part of your life. You plan on being a wife, and you plan on being a mother, and you plan on all of the things that go with that, you know, football, cheerleading, all of those things that make up your life, and then it's done. I mean, it's done. I cope by trying to do things with my husband. We try to enjoy this part of our lives where we don't really have the responsibilities of little kids. We are almost like dating again. We get to go to restaurants we've never been to because it's half the price. So I just kind of I'm focusing on our relationship and what this part of my life is going to be. How does this look? I do think that at first my kids were like, get over yourself, Mom. You know, you want to, I really tried not to be a smother mother, but sometimes it's just difficult. But now that I'm like, oh no, Dad and I are going away for the weekend, we can't possibly do that. They're like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're doing something? It's Sunday, we should be having lunch. So now they're getting their noses bent out of shape a little bit more because I'm not there for them at the drop of a hat. I actually have plans. So I think it's come full circle and we are finding our way. And I'd have to say, at first being an empty nester is extremely difficult. It's just hard to get used to that, but it gets better, and it gets a whole lot better. So if that answers your question. I say that a lot, I'm really sorry about that. Susan Groden, what skincare regimen do you have? I use Clairins, and I will try to link the review video for that down below. I love it. It is a little pricey, but I have noticed huge changes in my skin. It's smoother, the fine lines aren't as noticeable, my pores have gotten smaller, it smells amazing, and I just really, really love it. I would highly recommend Clairins. If you go to the Clairins counter, they will help you to customize a skincare regime just for you. What exercise routine do you have? I think I answered that in the first video. I don't really have a routine. I plan on exercising. It doesn't always happen. I've always lived in Florida. I've never visited Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I do actually have a friend that lives in Pennsylvania, Liberty, Pennsylvania. She used to live here, now she lives there, but I have never, ever been there. So this one is from Holly Ziegler, and this is from Facebook, and she asked, how old are Bella and Cooper, which we already talked about. They're 6 and 7, and they are not siblings. They're not related at all. So next question is from Lisa Foster. So my question is, how do you stay motivated? So then I asked, motivated in what way? Home, diet, marriage, etc. And she says, yes, LOL. How do you motivate yourself to keep your house so lovely, do crafts, diet, cook, etc.? I have good intentions, but nothing ever seems to get past that. Thanks. All right, people. When I videotape, you are seeing the Disney World version of my life. I don't really show too much of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's very difficult for me to stay motivated right now. Because I'm tired all the time, I kind of have to figure out when I'm gonna have energy and what I want to do with that energy. And 9 times out of 10, it's go to the thrift store and not do the dishes. So that is a little difficult. I do much better when I have a schedule, when I know I'm doing this, 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 and this on these days. It also is very hard to get things done when your husband is home all day, because I feel like I want to be available. If he says, let's go to lunch, or can you run to Home Depot with me? I want to be able to just go. Which really, if you're vacuuming, you turn the vacuum cleaner off and you go to Home Depot. But in my mind, it's like, I can't clean, I might have to go somewhere. So I'm not real good with motivation, to be perfectly honest, Lisa. I think the best part to keep you motivated is don't look at, I have to do the house, I have to do crafts, I have to diet, I have to cook. I'm gonna cook. And that week, that will be your motivation to make a menu plan and try some new things and try to incorporate those into your repertoire of food. And once you're comfortable with kind of that aspect, then you think, okay, I'm gonna get on a cleaning schedule, and you do that until it becomes a habit. And then you don't really need motivation, it's just habit. I know that for me, that helps me when I just schedule things. So this one is from Jillian at home again. What is my favorite type of event, party, or occasion to plan? I love to plan any type of event, party, or occasion. I just love it. I used to love planning the kids' birthday parties. That I used to plan, the party would end and I'd already be planning the next year, just like Miss Stonehome. She does the same thing. I think it's cheaper that way because you can buy things all throughout the year that go with your theme. You get a better deal. And I just loved it. I loved having people over. I loved the kids' look on their faces when the party went off just the way we wanted it. Maureen had a beautiful tea party when she was a little girl. That was just so much fun. My favorite boy party was we had boot camp, like a draft. We sent out draft notices to all the little boys, and they came here, and we had an obstacle course that they ran, and there used to be woods next door, and they had compasses, and they had to find, their mission was to find whatever it was in the woods, and they had to use markings on the ground and compasses, and that was a lot of fun. I love Christmas, I love Thanksgiving. Planning Maureen's wedding, although it was one of the loneliest times of my life because Maureen was very busy trying to find a place to live and do all those things, and she is not super crafty. She's like, yeah, Mom, I want that. Do that. That's what I want. I loved planning her wedding. It was so much fun. Just, you know, with Pinterest, oh my gosh, it was insane. So that I love to plan parties. I love to have people over. I mean, I'll have a bonfire with s'mores, and you know, to me that's fun. So any type of party, Jillian, any type. You want to come have a party? I'm there for you. Brittany Hustu, I hope that's right. Houstu, what does your hubby do for a living? My husband is a lineman for the power company. He is the one that climbs the pole and those hooks and shimmies up that pole and restores your power after hurricane. He's the one in the bucket truck that's driving around and fixing the power. That's what he does. He has been with the power company since he was 19 years old. So if we've been married 27 years, he's been with the power company for 28 years. I really try hard not to think about what he does because it is extremely dangerous and I don't want to know. Hurricane season is the hardest thing for me. When we have hurricanes, as soon as you get the all clear, he has to leave. He has to go to work. And we had one year where we had 4 hurricanes hit the state of Florida, and my kids were little. And I had my mother and his mother here because they needed to be somewhere for the hurricanes, and he had to go to work. And my mother-in-law, bless her heart, I know that's her son, she was crying and she was so worried, and my little kids were sitting there. And I always, especially with the kids, everything is fine, everything is good, daddy's safe, daddy's fine. And I always used to put on a brave face for the kids, and then when they went to bed, I would go in my room and cry and worry and pray and all of those things because it is an extremely dangerous job. But I don't want to think about that. So that's what he does for a living. Denise Crucy, I hope I didn't butcher that. Do you have any tips for organizing a craft night? I usually just pick out 3 crafts that I think anyone can do. I do all of the stuff that is no fun to do. Let's say cutting out wood pieces, sanding them down, getting them ready for paint. And I get all the, like if we're gluing circles to something, I cut out all the circles. So everyone, when they show up, They have all of the stuff they need and the craft that they're gonna do. To me, that then everyone can have a good time, you can visit, and you're not concentrating on like the little tiny stuff. I would not have more than 10 people. If you are the host, I would not plan on making crafts that night. I made the crafts before so I could work out any of the kinks, and then I'm available to help with whatever they need to do. So that's pretty much it. I usually will buy everything that's needed, and then they will pay me for the supplies. Usually it's $10 regardless, because it's just easier. And then just invite your most fun people, have them bring a beverage and a snack, and just enjoy. So I hope that helped. If you have more questions, just ask me down below and I'll try to help you out a little bit more. Phyllis K. How did you meet your hubby? Any secrets for empty nesters? Love your videos. Thank you, Phyllis. I think we covered how I met my hubby, and I don't have any secrets for empty nesters. Pray, don't be a smother mother, and try to let your kids come to you as much as possible. Maureen says I never call her, I never text her, all of those things, which isn't true, but I do try to give her her space. She's married now and she needs to do married things. So if you want to call your kid every 5 minutes, maybe call them every hour. Try to reel yourself in a little bit and just enjoy a job well done. Hopefully you've done a job well done. Maureen's always telling me all the things that I scarred her for life. Anyway, I hope that helped. Heidi Martinez, did you know how to cook before you married Honey, or did you learn on the way? I covered this a long time ago in one of my videos, maybe the happily married tag. I was engaged at 17, was not well received by most people, and I took on being a wife and a mother like it was my job. I learned how to cook, I learned how to sew, I went on the Sidetracked Home Executives, and I learned how to keep cards so I could keep my house clean. I did learn to cook the way my husband likes me to cook. You know, you get better as you try new things. And as I said before, I used to put cheese on everything. I used to put cheese on green beans. I used to put cheese in meatloaf. My husband hates cheese. So that was a learning process. But I think you know, I knew how to cook some, but obviously over 27 years I got much better at the things that he liked to eat. What is the most spontaneous thing I ever did for my husband? And this is from Lori P. My husband's not real big on spontaneity. His love language is very much service. Like if his clothes need to be folded, if I fold his clothes to him, that's like, you know, the best thing. He's not real flowery, doesn't like all that crazy stuff. So I don't really, you know, color outside that box too much. But when I found out I was pregnant with my son, he was helping a cousin of his move from Massachusetts to here, and they were driving. And I decorated our whole front porch at the time with balloons and a big banner that says, "You're gonna be a daddy." So when he pulled in, he would see that I was pregnant. If you watch my vlogs, you know he's not very like over the top emotional. He's like, "Yeah, babe, that's great." When we got married and I walked up to the aisle, you know, most husbands are crying, and he says to me, "You look good." That's what he said to me. So I did make him the 52 deck of cards once, 52 reasons why I love you. Keeping it G-rated here on spontaneity. Don't watch this, Maureen. So last question, this is also from Lori P. What is your favorite childhood memory, and have I read any good books lately? And I think that would be the last question. My childhood was very 1970s. We used to go to motocross every weekend. I'm not so sure if I owned shoes at that point. I lived in cut-off jeans and halter tops, and 9 times out of 10 I had a bandana on my head. I won't say that my parents were hippies, but they definitely weren't June and what's-his-face, Cleaver. We had a very free and easy type of growing up. Our block, 8th Avenue, was amazing. Everyone left their doors unlocked. We could go in and out and, you know, leave a note. I had a bowl of your ice cream to the neighbors across your street or whatever. That's just the kind of life that we had. Of course, in the 70s, things were a little bit easy, and my mom would pile all the neighborhood kids in our white station wagon. I don't even think the car came with seatbelts at that point. and we'd all go down to the beach, and there'd be 15 of us. Mom was always very good about including anybody and everybody, and we would just go do and have fun. So that was pretty much my little kid childhood, was that type of thing. And then of course I'm a child of the 80s, so loved the 80s, loved the music, loved everything about the 80s. But I would just have to say being free and easy as a child would be my best childhood memory. And I had a heart condition when I was little, and my heart, I would just be sitting here and my heart would go 300 beats per minute for no reason. We didn't know why. And I was constantly in the hospital. I was constantly seeing doctors. One memory, it's not my best memory, but I can remember it. I was in this cute little red chiffon nightgown set. It had a nightgown, and it had a little robe, and I think I had matching slippers. And we had to go to the emergency room. And we left the emergency room, and I was sitting in the car, and I said to my parents, "Aren't you glad I don't have to stay at the hospital, Mom? Aren't you glad?" And she said, "Yes, honey," as they proceeded to drive me to the next hospital that I then had to stay for a week. But to my parents' credit, they never limited me on what I could do. I played softball, I was a cheerleader, I rode motorcycles, I was extremely hyper, and they never said, "Oh, stop, slow down." I mean, my mother was always feeling my pulse, don't get me wrong, but they never said, "You need to sit there because your heart could race." They just let me do what I wanted to do. Not till I was 18 and getting married did I find out that there was a sudden death possibility with my heart condition, which I never knew, which is good, because who knows, what I may not have done when I was a child. So being allowed to be me as a kid was probably the greatest gift my parents ever gave me. I was, like I said, extremely hyper. I was probably one of those kids that would be medicated today because I was just extremely hyper. So I would have to say, Mom and Dad, thanks so much. I know, Mom, you're always giving me a hard time that I say bad things about our family, but that was a true blessing. So if there's another question that I have not answered with my rambling, please feel free to ask. I will either answer it in the comments and give you an answer there. I hope you enjoyed getting to know me a little bit better than you did before. I hope the gnats are crazy. My rambling didn't make you shut my video off. I really appreciate all of the well wishes, all of the feel better, and I really appreciate the comments like, well, maybe it's this, well, maybe it's that, have you checked this? Because I do. I then go on the computer and I check, could that be it? So I really appreciate all your love and all your care and all the attention you've given me. I really hope to be back to a regular filming schedule, so stick with me, guys, and I love you all, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.